My Licorice is alive with Boplicity, a great title to a better tune. Composed by Miles Davis and arranged originally by Gil Evans, the tune was recorded in 1949 but not released on an album until 1957, and the album was an iconic one indeed, The Birth of the Cool. Anyway, for my money, contemporary cool as we know it begins with this record. Stylistically, the arrangements for the nonette, and nonette means the 9 players in the ensemble, which, by the way, included Max Roach and Jerry Mulligan, in addition to Miles. The arrangements represented a clear departure from the small combo bebop ensembles that dominated that era. The sound is, yes, cool, but also sophisticated, elegant, and soulful, and represents a dynamic fusion between the European classical and the African-American jazz traditions. So if you don't have this album, don't waste a minute, get it and listen. It is, without a doubt, a critical tool to your coolness. So welcome, friends, subscribers, and countrymen, to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you, as it always does, from my movie studio apartment right here in the Wood of the Holly, under the sign, overlooking the enchanted land of law. As always, I'm doing my best to explore the netherworld of my brain, and hopefully, just maybe, shed a little light into yours. So, the first installment of the holiday jamboree is behind us. Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's loom large and menacingly in the distance. I really don't know what days Hanukkah is on, because they always move it around to keep us chosen ones off balance, but either way, I know it's coming. For the Thanksgiving holiday, I did the family turkey hang up at my dad's expansive pad in the Hollywood Hills. The rains came, but one and all were cozy under the big plastic tent. Then I scooted down the hill and slipped inside the Laugh Factory Comedy Club in Hollywood. Every Thanksgiving, they offer up 4 free dinners, with each dinner followed by a comedy show offered up by the Laugh Factory comedy regulars. As I have for the last decade or so, I serve for the 5 o'clock and the 7 o'clock dinners. And I'm telling you this not for you to think what a good person I am for feeding the homeless or the near homeless or the soon-to-be homeless or just the lonely and dispossessed who have homes. I'm telling you this because, frankly, it's really one of the few times that I actually get on stage at any of the Hollywood comedy venues nowadays. And it hurts me to admit that. I mean, that's probably why I do this Rebel Without Applause podcast thing. It's my psychic safety valve. I need to get whatever is inside of me, outside of me, even if only a few people hear it. See, in front of my microphone, here inside my movie studio apartment, nobody is going, "No, Bill, we're booked." Or worse yet, "Sorry, Bill, we had some complaints, and besides," and here comes the most devastating 3 words in the English language, "you're not funny." That's probably the worst thing that anybody could say to me. Way worse than "you're lousy in bed," or "you're not a good person," or "you're stupid," or "a liar," or "bipolar," or whatever. "You're not funny" are the cruelest of words. They cut to the bone. They are words that you can't take back. They are words that go straight into the bottom of my soul and burn like an all-consuming acid. So anyway, I showed up at the factory and served up the turkey and the stuffing and the mashed potatoes to the unwashed masses, and then when the comedy show began, I sat in a corner of the club and I waited. If the club owner, Jamie Masada, calls my name, I'd get up on stage and serve up a few jokes. The first show, my name wasn't called, so I just sat there and tried to play it cool and not let on how humiliated I felt as Jamie's faves went up and did their little spiel. To finish off the 5 o'clock show, Tiffany Haddish jumped up and did her thing. Tiffany now qualifies as a movie and TV star. Over the last few years, I've watched as she has been blasted up into the showbiz heavens. Rarely a day goes by that as I tool around the Uberverse, I don't see her smiling face splashed across billboards for this movie or that TV show. Good for her. She deserves it, I guess. Nice Jewish girl from the Valley. She worked hard. As a matter of fact, she grew up right near me in Woodland Hills, and we went to neighboring high schools. But I was raised in a nice 2-story upper middle-class house with a pool and a basketball hoop, and Tiffany did her growing up in a foster home, but I think they also had a pool and a basketball hoop. And to her credit, Tiffany has always been absolutely fearless. I remember some years back, she emceed an Indian casino show that I was on. She was just Well, she was just real nice. She was friendly and open and flirtatious, and I have to say it, flat out fucking sexy, and good goddamn a wham bam, that girl could shake it. On stage, she was a friggin' ball of fire, and what's more, Tiffany was insanely optimistic about her career prospects. The girl seemed to have this rock-solid belief in herself and her destiny, and from where I sit, which frankly is far away, it looks like all of her dreams pretty much came true. Anyway, Tiffany was on stage, and the audience was loving her, so there was no way I was going to get on stage, so I just sat and watched. For my part, I tried to look nonchalant or cool. And then to round out the evening, Tiffany led the audience in a cute little dance contest where she supplied the vocal backbeat. Then the show ended, but not before Tiffany reached into her purse and handed the 5 contestants some cash. I'm really not sure how much, but nice gesture to be sure. And with that, the well-fed folks filtered back into the rainy Thanksgiving night. For the 7 p.m. serving, another few hundred lost souls filed in for their dinner. The weather had turned bitter with night, and the folks came in with their smiles intact, but their grime-encrusted backpacks dripping wet. Once again, we heaped up huge portions of white meat and dark meat, mashed potatoes and whatnot onto the flimsy paper plates. As I served the folk, most of whom were off the streets, their faces creased by exposure, all I could think of was that incredible Diego Velázquez painting, Los Borrachos. It depicted the poor street folk of a different era, think like 1629, and their faces were also creased with want and sorrow and joy as they crowded around the god of wine, Bacchus, and indulged in the moment. Velázquez was a genius of the highest order. The rendering is so real, so evocative, so timeless. If you ever get to Madrid, the painting is in the Prado Museum. Go see it. It has the richness of a Dostoevsky novel. Just spend an hour and sit in front of it and let your imagination fly. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Back to the Laugh Factory. By the way, I wonder if the Laugh Factory and Velázquez were ever used in the same sentence. Probably not. Anyway, the contemporary Borrachos shuffled slowly past us servers with their plates extended. For the 7 p.m. serving, I slurped out mashed potatoes. I say slurped because the mashed potatoes were creamier than usual. They pretty much approached the consistency of clam chowder soup, so I heaped them on top of the turkey meat so they wouldn't spill off the plate. Sometimes in this life, you gotta, improvise. After the servings, Fraser Smith, a longtime veteran of the LA comedy and radio wars, led off the last show. As usual, he was the MC and spat out his one-liners machine gun style to great comic effect. I love Fraser. He's such a good guy, and most importantly, Fraser thinks I'm funny, or at least he tells me he does, which for my purposes is enough. Once again, the show droned on, and I took my place in the corner and sulked. I figured Jamie, the club owner, would ignore me again, and I wouldn't get on stage. As the other comedians did their little shticks, I could feel the anger and shame and sheer fury of being ignored build within me. It was like a flashback to my high school baseball career when that Coach O'Connor kept my ass riveted to the bench for my whole senior year. Oh my God, the old feelings of humiliation and anger rose up inside of me. Fuck the homeless, fuck this club, and fuck everybody in it. Fuck this holiday and those stupid pilgrims and the idiot Indians who were dumb enough to feed them. What were they thinking? The Indians should have just let the pilgrims starve, then maybe they wouldn't have been frigging exterminated, and I wouldn't be sitting in this godforsaken comedy club waiting to get on a free holiday show. Why? Because there would be no holiday. Thanksgiving would just be another nameless day in the fall. If the Indians had been smart and just kept their goddamn turkeys to themselves, maybe we wouldn't all be stuck in airports and waiting in Uber lines to visit relatives we really don't like. Funny how fate and destiny and history affects us all. But at that moment, sitting in a corner of that club, it didn't matter. My kettle was boiling. Fuck it, I thought. I'm done with this whole giving and thanks thing. From this moment forth, I am just going to be a taker. If I can't get my stage time, I'm taking my ass and my jokes home. Because why? I have a podcast. I'm the rebel without applause. I'm not ignored just in Hollywood. No way. Thanks to the miracle of the internet and smartphones, I can now be ignored anywhere on Earth. From Burbank to Bombay, from Van Nuys to Vladivostok, people can say, what, the rebel without applause? I don't need to listen to this shit. And with that, I got up and headed for the exit. And just then, at that very moment, as if by divine providence, Fraser approached me and said, Bill, Jamie wants you to do a quick 10. You're up next. And so without a clue as to what I was going to say, I popped onto the stage and served up not creamy mashed potatoes, but a few jokes. I vibed with the crowd. I riffed on relationships. I said, there's so much wreckage out there. The last girlfriend, all she could do was complain about men. She said, when it comes to monogamy, men, they don't know the meaning of the word. And I said to her, well, with me, you've got nothing to worry about. I've got a beautiful monogamy cabinet. All my furniture is monogamy. You can make yourself right at home. The audience howled. The smiles went wide, just like those Borrachos in that Velázquez painting. One elderly lady from the audience stood up and asked me for a kiss, so I obliged. No tongue, I warned her. Then I said, if I could just get you in a time machine. Yowza! Bam! The laughs enveloped me like a warm blanket. And as the laughter subsided, I waxed philosophical. I thanked Jamie for putting on the dinner, and I thanked the Indians for bailing out the pilgrims, and I thanked all the folks in the audience for being, just that, folks in the audience. Because truth be told, my need to perform outweighs anybody's desire to hear me, and the folks laughed at that too. And my soul filled up with gratitude. All that fury and fire had drained out of me like bleach from a bottle. See, stand-up for me is as much an addictive thing as a calling thing. It's like being a crack addict. One hit, and then the old compulsion to perform resurfaces. And it's just not a compulsion to perform. It's a compulsion to destroy. And by that I mean tear the room down, obliterate, annihilate, kill, as the comedians say. It's like there's this animal inside of me, like that tiger in The Life of Pi. The more you feed the tiger, the hungrier it gets. Gee whiz, maybe I'm revealing too much of myself. Maybe I'm just a yawning black hole of human need. Maybe I'm actually a totally unreconstructed narcissist. Or maybe it's really just all about self-worth and finding a sustainable way to maintain it, which in a society addled by wealth and fame can be a daunting challenge indeed. So, after a lot of inner work, after therapy and meditation, after stays at Esalen and 2 weeks in a silent ashram, I finally stumbled on a reliable, sustainable, and healthy way to measure self-worth. It's so simple. Instagram followers. The more you have, the more you're worth. Provided, of course, you're not following more folks than are following you, then you might have to adjust that value. Anyway, I'm ranting and riffing and bullshitting. Who knows? Maybe the wheel of fortune will turn for me. Maybe I'll start getting the stage time I crave. But I'm not holding out hope. Last year I did the free Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner shows, and I didn't get one paid spot in Hollywood for the whole year, so a lot of good my little charity did me. Either way, there's no need to get all bent about it. There's way more important things on this earth than my frustrations in the fame game. But right now, I can't think of what they are. Oh yeah, global warming, even though it's freezing outside. And oh yeah, the whole impeachment thing is going down, and our democracy and constitution are on the brink of annihilation at the hands of you-know-who. And oh yeah, Kamala just dropped out of the presidential race, and the PVP, by that I mean Putin's vice president, has abducted our collective consciousness like some kind of body snatcher virus, and Big Bad Vlad still wants his Ukrainian cheese, and Todd Gurley still hasn't quite found his stride, and the Rams probably won't make the NFL playoffs unless they upset the Seahawks on Sunday. All that's surely way more important than my silly stand-up comedy career. But still, maybe, if you think about it and you are so inclined, how about doing me a solid and call the Laugh Factory and put in this request? Hey, when can we see the rebel without applause? You know, Bill Kalmanson. So, till next time, folks, namaste, shalom, and aloha. Or try this new word on for size. Nama Shaloha.